Like, you can catch me natural any day, but just put a camera up and I'm like, all right, am I starting?
Yeah, just touch your name, what you teach, and just say this is Mentor Monday.
Okay. So my name is Michelle Conchlane. I teach freshman English, and this is Mentor Monday.
So is the other part kind of just like his talk?
Okay. So I've been teaching here at Ocean Township High School for about 18 years. I started in 2006. So that's kind of a long time. I didn't know that I wanted to be a teacher when I was growing up, but I knew that I loved English. I enjoy anything that, kind of delves into like an analytical place, like even like psychology and like thinking about, what motivates people. And to me, when you're reading a book or some beautiful piece of poetry, there's so much to kind of dig into and interpretations that you kind of can find on your own. So that's really how I got into teaching English. When I was in college, I knew I wanted to study English literature. I graduated from Rutgers. And after that, I guess the only natural direction was to teach the thing that I loved. So I actually went to Georgian Court and I got my certification through an accelerated program there. And I was very fortunate because as soon as I was done with my program, Ocean was hiring a bunch of English teachers, and I was lucky enough to get one of those jobs. I grew up in Ocean. I didn't think that I would come back here to live, but it was kind of a natural choice because my family's very close by. I knew that the school system was a reliable district. So I came back to Ocean Township. So I have two daughters. My daughter Sophia just graduated last year, and she just finished her freshman year at the University of Vermont. And my daughter Sadie is an 8th grader, and she is coming to the high school next year. So I will have another one of my children with me, which is kind of fun. Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of...
Okay, so from there, why don't we talk about like the evolution of you? You said that you grew up in Ocean. Like, what was the dynamic in your household? You have these siblings. Do you feel like that, whether it supported your journey or things that you overcame, doesn't have to be family dynamics, but even in schooling, like any insecurities or anything that you felt unsure about that's relatable to maybe them, whether it was like friend groups or relationships,
Right.
you felt were confusing or unclear,
Yeah.
and then how you kind of evolved into that, and then I would kind of follow up with like the dynamic of like what do you think is important in life?
Yeah.
I think you mentioned like your family relationship dynamics like that, but how maybe they relate into your purpose and your passion.
Yeah. Well, so growing up, like I said, here in Ocean Township, I'm a family of divorce. So my mom and dad divorced probably when I was about 5 years old. So my mom, I would say, was like the essential parent for me. My dad moved away and I didn't really see him often. My mom is a very strong woman in a lot of ways. She is very resilient and taught me how to be resilient. I have an older brother and I have a younger sister. So I'm the middle child, and I know many people talk about, the middle child syndrome. And I think I have that to an extent, but not in the way that is, I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I don't feel like I was neglected, but I think that I always felt like I had to be the one to kind of keep everything together. I was kind of the rock for my mom, when she was going through difficulties. So I kind of had to, I guess, take a leadership role in the family. And I think my brother and my sister kind of just let me have that role. And they kind of got to sit back a little bit and, not really feel maybe some of the pressures I felt growing up. But as much as that was difficult, I know that the person I am today is definitely a result of having to take more responsibility, being expected, to be the one who always had their homework done or did well in school. I could always be relied on to straighten things up if it needed to be, if they needed to be, cleaned up or whatever it was. So I'm happy that I was in that position as a child, because I think that one of the most important things in life is being resilient, because as most people know, life is not, it's not a straight path and it's not an easy one. Most of us are going to hit hardships in some capacity. And I think that my resilience, that my mom instilled in me, has allowed me to overcome those challenges, and not fall apart, as a result. So, yeah, so I think that kind of family dynamic lends, to who I am today and what I value. And raising my own children, I am very careful to make sure that they understand that, they have to overcome struggles, that when you fall down, you have to kind of get back up. So I'm probably a little tougher on them than I am warm and fuzzy, but, it's a lot of it is because I want them to be able to face, life's hardships, whatever it might be, without setback. So, yeah. Are you writing me a question? You want to just say it out loud?
All right.
Just say it now.
Well,
Yeah.
I didn't know, like, I wasn't ready.
I was saying like if she was like still talking, so you
Oh,
have to
like I could read it and be like,
um,
yes, there's 2 more points. So, you were saying, when you're talking about your kids, you're talking about your children, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like, also, what do you think for students is like an important concept? Because I feel like we're very academic driven, which is so important because again, they need to know and they can challenge themselves and things like that. But as far as like kids who are feeling like wishy-washy in their passion or what their purpose is, like what do you think that people or they should be doing in order to kind of figure out themselves in today's kind of world?
Oof. I mean, in terms of finding, what you're passionate about, finding what your place is, I guess, even if it's not a passion, even if it's just an interest. I mean, for me, I felt like as a child, I never really had somebody who kind of opened doors for me. I mean, my mom was always busy. Obviously, being a single mom, trying to raise 3 kids. With my own children, what I really try to do is I try to, of course, as an adult, I can expose them to different opportunities. But, as they entered high school, what I did for my daughter, my older daughter, was really just to encourage her to put herself out there. I say it to my students, I say it to my children at home, do something that scares you a little bit, just challenge yourself, go and, talk to somebody outside of your comfort zone. It's through those, it's facing things that scare us that I think help us grow, but also kind of show us where those doors can be open. If you're afraid to try, then you don't know if it's something that you're going to be good at or something you're going to be passionate about or something you're going to love. So I think through our fear, that's definitely those learning experiences that can kind of open doors for you to see what you might be interested in. I know that I was always a kid who was scared. For me, one of the things that I really feel helped me become the person I am is, I went away to college. So in a sense, I got out of Ocean Township for a little bit, and I was able to meet new people and live independently. I think that's so important for young people to try and do that thing that scares them, which is, being on your own. I did spend the summer abroad in Spain one year, and that was scary for me because my Spanish wasn't great. And there were times that I was literally lost in a neighborhood that I had never been in. And I couldn't get my way home. But I look back on those experiences and it truly, at the end of it, made me who I am because, I understood that facing those fears helped me overcome them, and now I'm able to give that to my own children and hopefully my students too, to open their minds to what can be possible for them.
Can you kind of expand too for us, like the importance of relationships and like the dynamics of like when you're yourself as a whole person or feeling fulfilled, that comes more as a enhancement instead of something that's draining? Because I know that you met Carney, I feel like, or your husband, and this is going to be edited out, so I'm not going to know your husband's name, but I know that you met your husband after you studied abroad because you already felt like you were your own self. So if you can kind of just expand into that.
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the reasons why it's so important to find our passion or our direction or, something that fulfills us, when you are happy with yourself, when you love yourself, you don't need to be defined by the people around you. You can still love your friends and you can love your family, but they aren't who you are. And of course, there's a love there that's just unconditional, right? You're born into a family and obviously you love each other, typically. But to meet someone outside of that, I think that when you're in the right place and you've kind of filled checked your boxes off and done the things that you feel give you your identity, your purpose, I think then you can bring that to other people. And I know for myself, when I met my husband, it was right after I had come back from my trip to Spain. And I really understood after that trip, going through those challenges and being afraid at times to, get lost and meet new people. When I came back, I really was a different person. And I think I looked at life very differently. I was going into my senior year of college. So, I knew that like my future was ahead of me. But I also understood that the people in my life, even the ones I loved and cared about me, that, they didn't define me. They enhanced me. They were kind of a piece of my life that made my life more gratifying. But, I was happy with myself. I was ready just to be who I was and to share that with the world. And I think authenticity in who you are is so important. We didn't have internet back then, really. We definitely didn't have social media during this time, so of course hiding behind kind of that veil of, your profile was not even an option. But, I think today, one of the scary things is that we want to kind of put this persona on and we don't give ourselves enough time to really focus on who we truly are, right? Because we're so worried about showing the world this version that kind of fits the mold of what we think beauty is or what we think cool life is or experiences are, So I would say that if you want good, healthy relationships or finding a person who, kind of fills your cup with, just pure happiness, you have to find that for yourself first.
Okay, and then the last thing, I was gonna say, how do you continue to do that? Like now that you feel like you know your passion and you're in a space of, alignment for your purpose, how do you continue to find joy, even giving when hardships happen? Because again, life isn't always what we expected.
Right.
Like there's gonna be outcomes that we can't control.
Right.
So how do you continue to move through? Because I know you have had challenges, and just like everybody else.
Right.
But like, again, your resilience, right? So
Yeah.
how do, like moving forward, and I think this will be like the last thing I ask you, would be like, how do you continue that, not hunger for life, but like that want to.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in life, the negative parts of it, the fights with friends or the, breakups with boyfriends, like those things can seem so consuming, and as we get older, we realize that sometimes our hardships, or the death of a loved one or, your child who, is now sick, so it's difficult to kind of, live in this, positive space when life is kind of throwing those things at you. I think that first and foremost, being resilient prepares you for the ability to kind of approach those challenges, right, with a different mindset, because you already feel like you can get through it. And I think it's super important to remember that there's still good in your life. So when you meet those challenges, you have to lean on and focus on the strong relationships that you've established, right? The authentic relationships you've established. Because it's impossible to do it alone. Oh, it is? Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
So pretty much so you're saying focusing on and how do you still bring, last question, how do you still bring joy and newness to your life at this point?
I mean, for me, continuing to kind of hook into some of the things that when I was younger gave me joy or excitement, whether it's traveling or, even encouraging my children to do the things that used to bring me joy. I want to see them living the life that I was able to live. And that to me, taking it to the next generation kind of gives me that same kind of excitement, because I know they're going to experience life the way I experience life. But for myself, I try to make sure that I'm taking care of myself, exercising and trying to eat relatively healthy, but also fostering those relationships. I know that, for people my age, as you get older, you've been in relationships a long time, whether it's friends or romantic. So it's important to, continue to reach out and continue to communicate. I mean, communication is so major. We could solve so many problems if we could just say the words, right, the right way, and maybe to someone's face, so that we were able to, kind of make that connection, that human connection. So I think just being a part of your relationship and, seeing moments where you can continue to let that person know how you care about them, let them know that, you appreciate them, whether it's your mom or your dad or your husband or your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your siblings or, your best friend.
And last thing, what's a quote that has changed your life or had impact on you?
Oh, that's a tough one.
Figured since you were an English teacher.
I know, I don't really carry around a quote. Let me say, okay, I'll give you my quote.
Advice, something doesn't have to be an actual quote.
This is my quote. It's actually I have it in my classroom. This was I was in college and we were reading King Lear, which is a Shakespearean tragedy. So you can imagine there's a lot of sad things that happen in that story. And the quote is, "It's not the worst so much as you can say, this is the worst." Do you want me to explain it, or I don't know if they wanted to, analyze it. So, what's that?
You can say what it means to you.
Oh, well, what it means to me is, and I think the reason I always took this, I mean, this is going back, over 25 years, but I carry it with me and I have it in my classroom because it's a reminder that even when things look bad, and we could probably daily pick something that is negative, even when things look bad or feel bad, if you're still alive to say this is the worst, then it's not the worst because you're still alive. So as long as you're alive, get out there and do the things that make you feel fulfilled and talk to the people who you care about, because it's not the worst, right?
Appreciate you.
Thanks.
Anything else? You think it's good? You got a lot, right?
Yeah.
Good?
That's
Okay.
a good one.
That was good.
It's a good one. Good one.
Yeah.
All right, do you turn off the camera or am I getting up?
No,
Okay.
I'm gonna edit it.
Okay,
Thanks for that.
Of course, yeah. That's what I said. I'm like,